Welcome to the Polite Conversations podcast, where every episode is focused on civility, decorum, and good manners. And I'm your lovable, non-controversial host, Ina. If you know me, you know I definitely don't like to ruffle any feathers at all.
Hey everyone. So, wow, this is 2026, eh? What an unhinged year it's been so far. And we're barely into week 2. Apologies for my stuffy sounding voice. I'm just recovering from a flu, so yeah, that's why I sound like this. But anyway, I know that most of my lovely listeners are American. I see those numbers, and at least 45 to 50% of you are. And look, I love and adore you, lovely leftist listeners, kind and compassionate people that you are. But I think we need to have a talk about your country. It is increasingly out of control and making the world a lot less safe for everyone, including its own citizens. Just in the past couple of days, there have been multiple incidents of federal agents shooting at American civilians. And you cannot let this hellish reality become the new normal. We, the rest of the world, are counting on you to beat back the tide of fascism that will inevitably engulf us all if you don't. So, we are all in this together. America is threatening its own citizens, anyone to the left of Richard Spencer, basically, and it is threatening the rest of the world, too. And the rest of the Western world's leaders are not doing a damn thing about it. So it looks like it's going to have to be up to the people. Really, never underestimate the power of what people truly pushing back can look like. We all can push our leaders to do more, both in the US and outside. I know it can feel overwhelming and helpless and bleak, but now is the time to be out in solidarity with the oppressed and out in full force against the fash. If you're American, especially you, please don't do nothing. Get out there, organize, help your neighbors, call your leaders, and have clear demands, unlike those earlier No Kings protests that fizzled out and didn't really achieve much. And, as always, stand firmly against genocide, because that should be the bare minimum. I've never thought so much about the term imperial boomerang as I have in these past few weeks. And the brutal live-streamed extermination campaign that continues to this day, despite it being rebranded as a ceasefire. I mean, this unbelievable violence that we've watched Israel carry out with the full backing of the US over the last couple of years has played a huge role in emboldening the fascists to do more and more evil. That imperial brutality has now turned inwards, and that is how you get an innocent woman, a bystander, a mother, a white woman even, a U.S. citizen like Renee Nicole Good being brutally executed in the street just for trying to drive away from Trump's fucking ethnic cleansing forces. I mean, they just released a new video, I think from one of these fascists' own phones, and I think they thought that it made them look better somehow, but it makes the incident seem way, way worse. Renee is calm and smiling and telling the guy that she's not mad at him. And then he fucking shoots her in the face multiple times and calls her a fucking bitch after that. This does not seem like someone acting in self-defense at all, as they've claimed. Like, it really didn't take long for this fascist government to come in and put out their own completely fabricated version of the story, despite knowing that footage contradicting their version existed. I mean, they labeled her a domestic terrorist for no fucking reason, and after shooting her in the face, these ICE goons, they deliberately prevented a doctor from giving her medical care. And all of this is just so reminiscent of what the U.S. enables Israel to do to Palestinians. The brazen lies in the face of endless evidence, the false, dehumanizing labels of terrorists, the justifying of violence based on absolutely nothing, and the endless impunity for murderers. The deliberate obstruction of potentially life-saving medical care. We've seen this all again and again in Palestine. Heck, I even saw a Gateway Pundit headline labeling the victim, Nicole Good, a quote-unquote human shield of the radical left, and then somehow connecting it to Hamas or some shit. I mean, these are not coincidences. This is a playbook. And I hate to say, but many people on the left were sounding the alarm all the way back in 2023 of this escalation of fascism via Palestine. But a lot of people didn't seem to care because it was too far away. But it's still not too late to realize that all these things are connected, and in order to really change things, we must push back on it all consistently. This is why it's been so nauseating to see the pathetic, both-sidesy statements of Western leaders in the face of Trump's actions in Venezuela. I mean, if you allow this sort of brazen disregard of international law, like even when you don't like a leader, who's to say that a maniac like Trump won't come for you next? If you allow a complete breakdown of international law when it comes to Palestine or Venezuela, don't expect people to take you seriously when you actually, finally object. Like with Trump threatening Greenland. Somehow that was going too far suddenly. Our leaders were now, all of a sudden, not both siding. And here I'm referring to our so-called liberal leaders, not the far right. Keir Starmer, Mark Carney in Canada, the Democrats, and all their pathetic counterparts around the Western world have been utterly, utterly useless in the face of rising fascism. Complicit, even. Like, you can't selectively object to this stuff and then look the other way or participate in it at other times. This crumbling global stability right now could not have been achieved without their part in it. That is why it is beyond urgent that we demand better from our so-called not right-wing leaders, because they have completely failed to meet the moment. Others who call themselves moderates and centrists have also been showing their whole damn ass when it comes to ICE shootings, saying things like, oh, ICE just needs to be reformed or better trained. There's no reforming Nazi squads. Please, this is what they are designed to do. It is a terror force. The guy who shot Renee Nicole Good has now been identified as Jonathan Ross. And no, not the awful British guy that is apparently friends with Glinner and Russell Brand. No, this is another awful Jonathan Ross, an American Jonathan Ross, who apparently has an immigrant wife from the Philippines, and he was also a firearms trainer himself. So, I mean, no, more training would not have helped him be less of a murderous maniac. He would be the one doing the training. I mean, just fuck, enough with this centrist bullshit. Do not put up with it. Relying on civility and decorum and norms, it's all meaningless when your opponents are deranged, bloodthirsty fascists who do not play by these rules. You cannot fight fascism with civility.
Civility, decorum, manners, these are bulwarks against violence.
Yeah, because that's worked really well so far, eh? Just ask all the people being rounded up and abducted nowadays. And, I mean, while international law crumbles to dust and U.S. federal agents shoot their own citizens, extremely rational intellectual, Sam Harris, once again shows how he really has his finger on the pulse of all these things and how useful and relevant his political analysis is in these urgent times. Because he has just a couple of days ago put out an episode with John McWhorter titled, "Is Wokeness Finally Dead?" I mean, that is the question on everyone's minds as fascism tears through their country, destroying everything it touches. The wokes, inclusivity, DEI. Has that gone too far? These are perfectly normal questions to ask when Nazis are running your country, right? An extremely normal response to Nazism taking power is to double down and punch down on minorities. On this illuminating episode, you can hear their greatest hits, such as
DEI largely is a euphemism for affirmative action and racial preferences.
A preference for diversity is the opposite of that, actually.
In academia and in media and in Hollywood, and I don't know, I'm sure there's been an effort to debunk some of those numbers, but the pattern was detailed there, at least in the article, was pretty stark.
Yep.
With respect to just how relentlessly white men in particular had been filtered against in all of these high status areas.
Yes. Very clearly, white men are the real victims and have been held back. It's perfectly normal to fixate on this stuff while Trump is literally trying to resegregate the country and expel people of color. Let's see. They also talked about how there's absolutely no racism in policing, like at all. They also brought up two scary words, very, very close to each other. Hamas and trans. Oh my God.
The way a certain kind of person is given to talking about what Hamas did, and also the way a certain kind of person is given to talking about trans issues.
And Sam Harris, after all this, makes sure to throw in that he's definitely a xenophile, guys. Don't you worry. He loves to repeat that point while he's beating down on anything diversity related. Just pummeling diversity in the face and repeating that you're a xenophile, actually. Just great stuff, eh?
It's not that I want all the food in every restaurant to be the same. I'm a xenophile in every cultural respect, but not with respect to the basic values that organize our ethical intuitions and the political system in which we live, right? So the rights, the rights of women and girls to get educated, I mean, that's not on the table to be rethought, right? Defense of slavery is not something that we need to entertain.
I think we've seen that the basic values in the Western world simply did not hold when it came to a brutal, barbaric genocide. All that talk of human rights sure rings hollow when you're willing to help in the bombing, beheading, and starving of children on a daily fucking basis. So yeah, shut the fuck up.
No. And yet some cultures haven't figured that out, and so we have a genuine problem.
Some cultures haven't figured out that it's bad to do genocides. And, aside from it being a really boring episode that barely even attempts to answer their own damn question, and aside from Sam's brain forever being stuck in 2014 or something, there was one sort of interesting moment where they almost grasp how far right adjacent they themselves may be in a flittering moment of something close to self-awareness. When they talk about how a professor, Amy Wax, is not welcome by those nasty wokes. Now, why she is not welcome by the wokes, they never say. But let me tell you, it's because she says things like, the United States is better off with fewer Asians. She said, immigrants should be abjectly grateful rather than critical of the U.S. She's also said, our country will be better off with more whites and fewer non-whites. And for some strange reason, they completely left this context out of the conversation. Strange, isn't it? But they did say that just a smidge to the right of her is her pal, self-identifying white nationalist, Jared Taylor, whom she's invited to speak in her class. And they also pointed out that she herself would be nodding along with their conversation too. I mean, they draw the line from themselves to white nationalist talking points, basically, and then completely fail to examine why that line could be drawn at all. Why would someone who sympathizes with Jared Taylor also be nodding along to their chat, I wonder? They never quite interrogate or investigate that point.
But I mean, there are many people who make precisely the same noises you just made or that I would make in this conversation, and yet they've also said something else that has gotten the attention of the censors and have been branded just a racist. Oh, the truth is I've been branded. I was on the Southern Poverty Law Center website at one point. I'm not sure they called me a racist, but I mean, Ezra Klein effectively called me a racist. So I'm no stranger to this, but what hasn't been done to me is something like what's been done to. I don't even know whether it's merited or not in her case. I don't even know whether it's merited or not in her case. It's like someone like Amy Wax is treated as just, she's just, plutonium in certain circles. And yet, she would be nodding her head along with this conversation, right? She would be nodding her head along with this conversation, right? She would be nodding her head along with this conversation, right? But then, if you just go a tick right of her, you wind up in the, some part of the white identitarian fever swamp with Jared Taylor or something even more awful.
Who Amy Wax is invited to speak in her class.
Right.
Also.
And I don't know, is that an interesting pedagogical moment? Is that an interesting pedagogical moment? Is that an interesting pedagogical moment, or is that just some encroach of awfulness into, where it shouldn't be in an Ivy League institution? So anyway, give me your reaction to that, because I just don't, honestly, I don't know how to kind of follow these breadcrumbs and not suddenly wind up in company I don't want to be in on some level.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Anyway, that's enough about Sam Harris, but to sum it up, the whole damn world could be burning at the hands of a fascist lunatic, and Sam's anger at the wokes would never shift, never change. I mean, ask yourselves why someone would have that as a priority in these times especially. But look, it's not all doom and gloom, friends. This stuff is very unpopular. Even Sam's own subreddit was like, what the fuck is this episode? Even they have had enough of his bullshit now. This is the time to demand better, to usher in major changes. This is the time to demand that people be held accountable, because if they are not, these types of ghouls keep doing this shit again and again. If Trump was held accountable for January 6th, he wouldn't have been able to run, and he wouldn't have destroyed as many things and terrorized as many people as he has. I mean, there will be a major backlash to this fascism, but you all have to be a part of bringing that backlash about. You cannot quietly be against fascism or racism anymore. You cannot accept centrism, especially not when the stakes are so high. You have to pick a side, and you have to be very visible and loud about it, especially if you're a privileged person. Use that privilege. And when it comes to literal genocide that our Western countries are participating in, providing cover for, don't be a quiet observer there either. Don't be a zone of interest kind of person about it. If you support content creators that do not give this issue any importance, that do not speak out about genocide, even after 2 years, then don't support them. There are plenty of people who are speaking about this stuff and deserve your support far more. And there are unfortunately still plenty of people in left-leaning spaces also that do not connect these dots. And you cannot just be against Trumpian fascism when it's close to home, but ignore American fascism and its effects across the globe. You cannot effectively be against fascism and be silent on an American-funded genocide. you can help bring about change. The tide is already turning against these people. Just do what you can to keep that momentum going. And if you're not American, the far right in your country is watching the Trump administration very, very carefully. They want to bring that shit to you too. So don't think it can't happen there. Push, protest, call your leaders, boycott, and pay special attention to how they try and silence things regarding Palestine, because they've been repressing and silencing people through that everywhere. Like, I just read about this Adelaide festival, Adelaide Writers Week, I think. And hey, if you're listening from Australia and know anyone who would be a good guest to talk about that with, let me know. nicemangoes.blog@gmail.com. No E in mangoes. Because, I'd love to hear more about that. So, yeah, this Writers' Festival decided to remove an Australian-Palestinian writer from their lineup because after the tragic events at Bondi, they decided that Dr. Randa Abdel Fattah's mere presence would apparently not be culturally sensitive so soon after Bondi, as they wrote in their statement, as if she had anything to do with that horrific shooting. It's just disgustingly racist to imply some sort of connection here or insensitivity. Like what? Her being Palestinian and existing is culturally insensitive? That is just bullshit. Anyway, so at the time I'm recording this, it seems that more than 100 writers and artists have also pulled out in solidarity, and there doesn't seem to be much of an event left. Yeah, there's just some very strange stuff going on in Australia. I also read another story. Apparently, there's this anti-Semitism envoy, Gillian Siegel, whose husband was involved in funding some far-right anti-immigrant group. That seems like something that should not fit with someone who genuinely cares about combating bigotry, and yet that's the situation. So, yeah, Australian listeners, do get in touch if you or someone you know would like to talk about these issues. And over on my Patreon, I put out a brief written post, some New Year's thoughts and stuff about the state of this fashy fucking world now. So if you're interested in reading that, I will link it in the show notes. Otherwise, yeah, do not despair, push back, and we've got some entertaining episodes in the pipeline. I'm just finishing up the editing on a 2-parter on Bill Maher, and there's another upcoming episode in the Fascidemic series. So, yeah, if you're not a patron, you should become one so you can check out the extended episodes when they come out and support this show. Patreon.com/nicemangoes. All right, everyone, I will talk to you next time.
Civility, decorum, manners, these are bulwarks against violence.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support it, there are several ways you can do that. You can share it online, talk about what you just heard. You can leave a 5-star review to help others find it too. And you can also subscribe via patreon.com/nicemangoes. No E in mangoes. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter before it's completely wrecked, you'll find me at Nice Mangoes. Again, no E in mangoes.